Are you ready? If you're not down with that, we got 2 words for ya. What's up? I'm awesome. Hello, ladies. Hey, ladies. Hey, really? Really? Oh, yeah. Yes. Yowie, wowie. Like mom. Baby. To believe that.
Why? That is a question that has plagued me my entire life. Why does a man do what he does? Why does a man say what he says? Why don't the sheep run from the hungry wolf? Why am I different? How can you save what is already dead? How can you forget what is already burned in your memory? What will be left of you? What am I? Well, I'm Radio Matt, and I'm the nightmare at the end of your dream. Beyond time, I stand. Actually, we got a lot to get to, so I better not dilly-dally this beyond time nonsense. Welcome to the 2 Words podcast, where our 2 words today are die-hard fans. You'll notice I'm alone today. John is actually at a church event for a local school because, as you may or may not know, John is an associate pastor at a church. Normally, when one of us has a scheduling conflict, we try to either reschedule or we just skip that episode. But today, I won't be alone for long because I've got a special guest joining us to share his story of going from never watching wrestling to becoming a die-hard fan over the course of just 1 year. So get excited for that. But before we get into that, hey, got some news for you. First of all, Ric Flair was kicked out of a pizza place because he was taking issue with how long the kitchen manager was in the bathroom. 75-year-old man is becoming a bit of a Karen, apparently. Kicked out of a pizza restaurant in recent days after taking issue with how long the kitchen manager spent in the bathroom in Gainesville, Florida. He was there attending a University of Florida graduation ceremony, and he's the one that posted this. It's Paisano's Stone-Fired Pizza. He said, "I spent $1,500 at this place to be disrespected more than I ever have in my entire life. After taking 20 pictures with customers and staff, I was asked to leave because of an issue I had with the kitchen manager taking too long in the bathroom. I would highly recommend that anyone who wants to enjoy a relaxing time in Gainesville at a nice restaurant to never visit this place." Woo! And he did that thing that old people do where literally every single word is capitalized. I don't even know how you manage that when you're typing out a tweet. It's not a standard setting. Anyway, the guy that owns the place said, "We've reviewed the video of the incident that took place recently at a restaurant, and it is clear our team worked in a professional manner to ensure the safety of guests and staff. We have thanked our team for their professionalism. We are proud of how they responded to the situation, using and displaying our team values." So, they aren't afraid of saying, nah, this legend of wrestling is wrong. That leads me to believe that they're probably in the right. And Ric Flair is a little nuts. I mean, what have we seen from Ric Flair to prove that he's out of his mind? Oh, right. He had a whole nother last match in 2022 where we found out in the middle of it, he had a heart attack. He didn't even know about it until he went in to get his pacemaker checked on several months later, and they saw signs of this heart attack. He did have several moments in that match where he was kind of out of it, kind of having weird reactions, and apparently it's because he did have a heart attack during the match. So that's fun. Let's hope this really is his final match. Speaking of final matches, Matt Hardy is pretty sure he's going to have his in the WWE. On his Extreme Life of Matt Hardy podcast, he said, "I must say, if things worked out, I feel like in a perfect world, AEW would be the best option to end my career because I have a best schedule and I'm allowed to still do stuff outside of AEW, which I really enjoy. There's a lot of projects that myself, my wife, and family were really interested in working on. But WWE is where I feel like I will ultimately end my career and do a Hall of Fame bid. We'll figure it out. We'll figure out what happens there. So I do have a lot of love for them. Sorry, I'm rushing through here. It's hard not to, because without WWE, I wouldn't have this nice life that I have now. They have afforded me many, many great opportunities, so I'll always be grateful for them. He said it's hard to answer that question. One thing we do know, he's not turning up as a member of the Uncle Howdy stable. PW Insider came out this week to basically spoil who's going to be in this faction. Of course, we have Bo Dallas, and Eric Rowan was already a given, already in the rumor mill, already re-signed with WWE. We just assumed that was going to be the case. But then the other three, I think the most, I know myself and most people that I've seen online are speculated that the other three were going to be Alexa Bliss, Braun Strowman, who just returned to TV, and possibly Matt Hardy. So Matt Hardy's out. Braun Strowman apparently is doing a whole different thing. And no word on Alexa. The other three members are Joe Gacy, which I think is a perfect fit. Dexter Lumis, which I'm so excited is coming back. That dude is creepy, and I think will be wonderful in the stable. And then Nikki Cross, which is kind of Alexa light, at least when it comes to the crazy storyline stuff. I don't hate any of these names being in this stable. I would have loved to have Braun and Broken Matt in there just because of their connection with Bray Wyatt. But, who knows? In the future, that story can always grow. That faction can always get bigger. But I'm really, really kind of upset that there's no Alexa Bliss on this list. And I hope that there will be room for her very soon. Because if it's not this, what are we waiting on with Alexa Bliss? Last I've seen from her interviews and tweets and stuff is she's ready to go. She's ring ready. She's ready to get back in. Why would she not be like choice number one when it comes to this stable? At least after Eric Rowan. I guess Eric Rowan is a definite choice number one. But why wouldn't Alexa Bliss be right next on that list? Makes me sad. I really miss Alexa Bliss in the ring. I feel like the women's division's really big right now. I would like to see her back in it. So we'll see. And lastly, talking about people returning, since CM Punk's return, apparently he's been a perfect angel in the WWE. According to WWE producer Shane Helms, aka the Hurricane, he said that there have not been any issues. CM Punk has not caused a single issue in the WWE since his return. He said, Punk was definitely the bigger shock for sure. I didn't think he was ever going to come back just because of the bad blood with past administrations and some of that stuff that was said online while he was gone. You also have to realize that we all say stupid stuff and get some anger. Maybe we're feeling that way all the time or at the time. But there's definitely stuff that I've said in the past and people are like, did you mean it? And at the time, maybe I did. I might not feel that way now, but that's not how you grow as a person. You know, that's you change. Things change. In terms of Phil backstage, CM Punk, he has been a pleasure since he's been back. I didn't have problems with him to begin with, so I'm not surprised he's been a pleasure with me, but I haven't heard anything bad from anyone else either. So that's really good news. After just the train wreck that was his run in AEW, when it comes to backstage nonsense, I mean, he was fun on TV, but the backstage nonsense was just brutal, and that's all anybody talked about. So I'm excited, and we'll see how that goes. But I've got a fantastic interview for you right now. We're going to go ahead and cut to it and enjoy. That's all I got to say. All right, I'm here with Josh, who goes by the handle Dporticus. Is it Dporticus? Dporticus. How do you pronounce it?
Either way, it's usually the quick is Dporticus, but technically it'd be Dporticus.
Dporticus, all right. Yeah. Dport for short. Goes by Dporticus on Twitch, YouTube, X, all the places. And while he might not be a household name in the wrestling fandom, he does have a unique story, which he told in a YouTube video titled, How I Became a Die-Hard WWE Fan in 1 Year. Now, this roughly 30-minute video was released less than a month ago, but as of this morning that we're recording this, sits at 108,000 views, which is
I didn't know that.
far more than any of the other videos on your channel, which there aren't that many,
Yes.
but that's a big viral video, and it's still spreading to spark joy in wrestling fans' hearts. Dport, thank you for joining me here on Two Words. How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing well. I appreciate you having me. That was a cool intro. I never had an intro like that before, so that was cool.
I'm very excited to have you here. John and I both watched your video, and like I said, we're not when we were talking beforehand, we're not an interview show. We've never done an interview for Two Words, and we both watched your video and are like, we gotta talk to this guy. It is such a good video that is such a, like I said, it's a unique story, because there's a lot of people that watch wrestling for the first time and like, okay, I'm all about this. But you went so much far beyond just like, okay, I'm going to start watching this every week. And like, you went way further than that. And we'll talk about it as we go on here. I know I don't have you for long, so let's just jump right in. I don't want to retell your whole video, because I'd love for our listeners to watch it themselves, and I'll have the link for it in our show notes for sure. But can you tell our listeners about how you came to watch your first WWE event and what that was like for you? And your fiance, I believe, was with you as well.
Yes. The first one, I purely have to give it up to, WWE's marketing. I have all the PLEs are on Peacock, and I have it just through my internet. I don't pay for it. It just comes with my internet. And so I was getting emails and constantly bombarded with ads that WrestleMania was coming up. Mm-hmm. And I believe, if I remember correctly, Snoop Dogg was going to be featured on it. So he was on a lot of different ads and stuff like that. And one day, I think this is like, it might have been after night one, the VOD was up on Peacock, and I was just sitting in Discord with my fiance and a few friends that are longtime wrestling fans that have not watched since like early 2010s, by the way.
Oh, wow.
And I said, okay, this is on. I'm just going to throw it up, screen share and just throw it up and watch it. And it didn't take long. It didn't take long for me just to kind of get hooked. And it didn't take long for me to, as I've heard a lot of people in the wrestling community say, get it. It didn't take me long to kind of get the appeal of what I was watching. And since that day of just watching that VOD and then watching the next day live, we have not missed a single Raw or SmackDown. Sometimes we watch them late or the next day, but we have not missed a single show to date.
Wow. So beyond that, what really stuck out to me is just how intensely you jumped in, because it's not just that you've caught every show. You have been spending this last year attending as many versions of live WWE events as you possibly can, right? You went to Raw. You just went to SmackDown a couple weeks ago. Several house shows. I think it was Sunday Stunner. I don't know what the other one was that I saw, but even attending last year's SummerSlam. Yeah, which is
that was
one of the big four.
Event.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That was the first event we had gone to.
WWE event was SummerSlam. What was the pull to get just so involved, so deep, so quick?
So, I really think it's because I mean, you can know from watching this year's WrestleMania, it didn't take long after this year's WrestleMania 40, that they announced SummerSlam, right? So they announced SummerSlam Cleveland pretty close to after, just the following weeks before Backlash for sure. And so they did that last year too. And I'm from, we're from Michigan. So when they announced SummerSlam Detroit, very quickly after we started watching, it was kind of like this instant hook to be like, they're coming to our town. I mean, all right, let's learn things a little bit before we get there. And we went down that rabbit hole like crazy. And we probably bought the tickets to SummerSlam before we were like fully invested, like fully like addicted at that point. And then all it did was make it so the time between WrestleMania and that year's SummerSlam we were just so hype. Every time, we were getting the month leading up to it, and we're like, oh my god, this is the part where you're gonna start see wrestlers say, "I'll see you at SummerSlam." Where they start setting matches, and every time, because she's sitting over at her desk, I'm sitting over here. We're watching on two different computers, like through Discord, when we're watching the shows,
right.
and with our buddies and everything. And so whenever the wrestlers will say something along the lines of, I was like, yeah, we'll settle this at SummerSlam. We're both looking at each other like, that's us. Like we're going there. So that was, it was just so, moments like that. It was just so much fun to get involved with it and dive completely into it.
Yeah. You gave quite a good recap of just what going to an event like that is like. In that main video, like you had a whole section for just that SummerSlam, which I thought was pretty revealing. I've never gotten to go to a big show. I've gotten to go to several house shows because I live nowhere near WWE likes to come. And so I've never really seen it beyond just, the cheap arena show. The only thing you ever get to see there is the insanely long line at a merch table that has 20 items for sale. But y'all had like a meal beforehand. Y'all had meet and greets. Y'all had taking photos and stuff. Really cool stuff. Again, like I said, we're going to be talking about this video occasionally throughout here. Go watch that video after you watch this, is everybody. Okay, because it's really good. One of the things you've done a lot of this past year is collect WWE merch, some of which we can see in your background right now. That Money in the Bank briefcase is one of the merch things that has called my name in the past, and I have been this close to getting it, and I'm pretty sure next opportunity I have, I'll be buying one as well. But I want to know, you've even had some exclusive VIP merch, because you had a recent video. This was for SmackDown, wasn't it?
This was for the VIP one, was at a Raw.
Oh, is it a Raw? Okay.
That was a recent Raw show.
So you had a Raw show. You got to do the whole ringside VIP. That's the people that get to sit in the first 7 rows. And you had a whole video showcasing all the VIP merch that comes with that, which I didn't even know was a thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. And that little...
I just thought it was the tickets at first.
Right, yeah.
All the
ticket. I knew the tickets. I knew the chair. I didn't know it came with like that mini title belt, which was sick looking, just beautiful. But I want to know what's some of your favorite merch that you have accumulated over the last year.
Man, there's some of it was just happenstance. Like one of the cool ones was just by sheer how we came across it. So my fiance, her name is Talia, but her handle is Tally. We were going to a show a few hours from us. We were just trying to kill some time. It was going to be the first Raw show we went to, and we just were killing some time at the mall. And we went to a store called FYE, and we're just kind of walking around it. And out of nowhere, I hear her kind of like gasp a little bit, like just a kind of a few aisles over, and she calls me over by pure happenstance. And she's a massive Roman Reigns fan. There's just a Roman Reigns figure with the title belts and all of that, and we're like, we have to buy it. It doesn't even matter how much it is. Like, that's crazy that we just happened to run into that. So in terms of how we came across it, I know that's her favorite. But the stuff that we've gotten that I think is that I'm most attached to is both stuff that we got related to SummerSlam. You can see there's a SummerSlam like car right above me.
Oh, that is okay.
I actually want you to be able to see. I took a picture of it, and then if you wanted to show it, that's what's on the inside of it is a mini title belt that is themed after SummerSlam, and it's really nice. It's like all the little like the jewels and everything are super clean, super shiny, and I pretty much never want to open that because like it's kept so nicely and kept so clean in there, but because that was our first show. The first time we saw any of it live, and a lot of my in-person questions got answered that day. That's a big one that is really special to me, just because it's kind of like and that's why we bought it when we were there. It was overpriced because we were at the event, and it's, how the merch stores and everything are in person compared to online. Yeah. But we just had to, it was going to be a limited thing, and we always wanted to remember the first show that we went to.
That's really cool, man. Yeah. This is not a question I prepared you for, but is it certain when you aren't really aware of wrestling, I think you don't realize just how much wrestling merch is everywhere. Like, have you noticed that now most places and stores you go into at least have a small section of WWE stuff somewhere?
It's funny you say that, because I guess it's more so I find myself going into parts of stores I don't normally go to. So now I found myself, whenever we stop at Target, I'm like, I got to stop by the toy section. I got to check it to see which, and you can always tell where the WWE stuff was because it's empty. And there's like maybe 2 or 3 pieces left of some wrestlers that, since I'm new, I'm not really familiar with, so I'm not going to pick up.
Right.
But I have seen a bit of that now that I know it's at pretty much every store I normally go to. I've kind of pinpointed the part of the store to make sure I pass by.
Just make sure it's on your route as you're walking around.
Just to make sure.
Yeah. Same thing happened with Funko Pops with me. You don't know if you can see my wall.
Oh, you like Funko Pops?
But I have so many. And that's what it became for me. Is like, okay, every store I go into, we got to run by the toy section, obviously. It doesn't matter that I'm late 30s.
Props to you for taking them out of the box. Looks like you could fit a lot more up there.
Yes, that's one of the reasons why. I had way more than this at one point. I spent way many thousands of dollars on Funko Pops for over a decade, and I had to really cut back to just a few certain, mostly superheroes, wrestlers, and just a couple specific movie genres. But I was getting them all. I was getting everything for a good while. But yeah, you have to stop. You have to go look at everything. You got to check every one of them out. We had a store here. It was a local chain that eventually closed down for New Mexico, but it was called Hastings. And it was a massive store in our town. And it was just, I'd say, by the end, about a third of that building was just Funko Pops and just stacks of them everywhere. And so you'll go in there for a day and just pull everything out to look to find that one hidden gem somewhere.
Never know.
Same kind of stuff. It's merch. Merch is how they get you, man. Any of these companies, that merch is how they get you. You talk a lot about the WWE universe, the fandom, and just kind of how welcoming it's been in that video. I'd like to know how your thoughts have evolved since releasing that video, and if you have any like specific stories of moments that you've had with other fans that stick out to you.
It's evolved a little now that as my channel's grown a little bit, and I've gotten a little bit more of a diverse pool of people commenting pretty consistently. I've seen the worst, but not on my channel. I have seen it on other channels that I frequent. I see it gets pretty bad. I have not experienced that yet. I like to think it's the way I approach the videos. I'm not really looking to spark a debate. Most of my videos, I'm showing why I enjoy what I'm watching. I kind of on the optimistic side of it. I'm not really there to pick it apart. So I think I don't invite a lot of it immediately. But even with that, I definitely, again, 95%, if not more, are just constantly supportive. Everyone's welcoming, and it's been awesome to meet so many new people just in this short time. But there is that small percentage, and I've noticed it's not even really hyper, fixated on one promotion. It feels like it doesn't matter what promotion they cheer for. I've had the AEW people kind of tell me like, oh, if you like wrestling, come check this out. Like if you like, whatever. But I've also had WWE people. It's almost kind of gatekeep a little bit, and like not many, super small percentage, but there have been a few that kind of approach it with this, well, you shouldn't get to enjoy this because you didn't go through what we went through kind of mentality. And I'm like, that's a weird approach. But I fully understand those are such a small percentage of the fan base, because at this point I've talked to so many people that overall my experience with the WWE and just wrestling fan base in general has been very positive and very much like they want to share it. The best thing I can compare, are you much of a gamer?
A little bit, but I'm connected with
Have you heard of the game The Outer Wilds?
Yes. I know what you're talking about.
Okay. So that is the kind of a game where I've played it myself, and it's the kind of game you can only really experience once.
Right.
Just because of the way it's designed. It's very puzzle based. Once you know how to beat it, you can't really go back and replay it.
Right.
And what a lot of people who are a fan of that game do is they'll go on Twitch and they'll watch someone else play it. That's how they kind of get to relive it, is see someone else have those moments, those aha moments, those experiences again. And that's what I've kind of compared it to. Most of the people that come on to my channel, they're always wanting to show me their favorite one. They want to, like, oh, please, like, hey, this is my favorite match from 2012 and between such and such and such and such. Let me know what you think. It's so many people that are so excited about this whole universe that I've stumbled upon just in the last year. Mm-hmm. And they're so excited to see, hey, what do you think of this? Like, you should check this one out. And I think that's really cool. How so much of the wrestling fan base wants to share what they love with a newcomer.
Yeah, that whole watching other people react to things is such a big deal right now, and not just like, you know, that channel, you know, Teens React or whatever, kids react to this, but like just watching people watch movies for the first time is that very same kind of avenue, because, you know, I can't ever watch Back to the Future again for the first time with fresh eyes, but I can watch someone who's never seen it, you know, flip out over this 38-year-old movie and like relive just a little bit of it myself. I think, gosh, I understand the mindset of some of the people that are a little bitter about it, because as someone who's been watching wrestling since, I guess, 8th grade now, I'm pretty sure that's how old I was. A long time ago. There were some really high periods, and then really recently there was just like most of a decade that was just, golly, it hurts to be a wrestling fan right now.
That's what I've heard.
Everything's bad. Everything's done wrong. They keep starting stories and never finishing them. Nothing feels connected. It's all disjointed. It was so painful. But really, I feel like this is such the perfect time for new fans to jump in, for people that have never seen it to be a part of it, because this is what it should be. It's so good right now. John and I have been doing the show for, I think we're at 5 years, and almost immediately after we started doing it, we started hating wrestling.
Really?
Like, why does this suck now? Like, we were so excited about this, and now everything we're watching is just, whenever we take our breaks, we usually take a couple breaks a year. We just, for all of this time, stopped watching. Like, we just didn't watch during those months that we were off. And we would just kind of do a recap on YouTube or whatever to find out where we left off, because it was just so painful. But now we're both at this point where, like, we can't miss a thing. And it's so good. Everything's ramping up with this whole new season. And speaking of that, like, you jumped in with WrestleMania 39, dive deep for a year. So what were your thoughts on WrestleMania 40? Like, how did it compare to 39?
Well, I mean, 39, I have gone back. Actually, the week leading up to 40, my fiance and I went back and rewatched 39. Now that we have way more context, we rewatched it and we appreciated so much more that we had seen, because before it was all surface level and a couple hype packages.
Right.
Going into 40, that was my Super Bowl. The weeks leading up to it, me and her would just, we would like, hey, 7 more days or 6 more days, almost WrestleMania time. We were counting the minutes for that to kick off. And when I say that weekend was just, you know, a blur, it was such a cool experience. Like, it was really, and that was just watching it at home, like just watching it with all my friends and everything, and just going nuts at everything and reacting to everything together and experiencing it as a group. That it made the whole year of not missing an episode feel worth it. It was just so much fun. And, you know, I've had people ask me, like, with you being new, how did the Undertaker moment hit you? And what's interesting is I can't ever say it hit me as much as, someone who has been watching forever. But what I can say is I have been exposed to and been aware of Undertaker almost my entire life. What I didn't mention in my video is my first actual exposure to any sort of wrestling was as a kid. While I wasn't allowed to watch it, I had a buddy who would always bring over, it was a little black cartridge, WrestleMania 2000 on the N64.
Yes,
and
I had that. I got that for Christmas.
We played that so much, and that was my only exposure to wrestling was that roster. So when I see a couple names that have snuck through over the years, I see Undertaker and I see like Edge and a few that were in that. I'm like, I know that guy. I remember that name.
Yeah, that was an interesting game. They all had the same bodies.
Yeah,
it's all the same body, just different clothes.
Yeah, pretty much. And it was funny. My buddy ended up saying like, "Hey, I only play this with you, so I'll just leave it at your house so you could play it whenever." And then enough time went by that it just became mine, and I played that for years. So I had a little bit of at least an understanding of how far back it goes. And I've seen documentaries and stuff that have included things like the streak and other moments of the bell hitting and the gong hitting and it being a big return. So I was given some context, right? And I think it helped that I was of the group that was fully expecting the glass to shatter.
Oh yeah, all of us. Yeah, all of us were.
Which almost made the bell hit better. Mm-hmm. Because we all thought we knew what was coming and then just got completely sideswiped by the Undertaker one. So in that moment, I was sitting here, I was screaming, she was screaming, everybody in my call, Discord couldn't handle all the audio that was coming through at once. So it was really cool. Like that was WrestleMania 40 has me absolutely, it's got me hooked for another year, guaranteed, minimum.
And see, that's the good kind of swerve that WWE can pull off where you think you know exactly what's happening, and then they swerve and they pivot to something that was even a greater moment. Mm-hmm. That's not the kind of swerve we've been getting up until the last couple of years, man. We've been getting, oh man, it's got to be this, and then it's almost, or something terrible.
It's funny you say that because another thing I don't really mention in the actual video is, and I think it's what's funny is there's a few things I go back, I watch that video. I made that video not expecting it to. I expected that to be my practice video.
Sure.
As like, oh, I just want to get into this or whatever.
Getting into WWE content. Yeah.
Next thing I know, it's got like over 100K views. I'm like, well, I guess that's the impression I'm getting. Like, I wish I could go back and add a few little bits of information to it. And one of those is one of the big things that got me hooked. I kind of mentioned it in the video, but it was the Bloodline. The Bloodline storyline was so easy to sink your teeth into, especially then. And I mean, because at that time, SmackDown was only an hour and 15 minutes as far as I'm concerned, because 45 minutes was always reserved for Bloodline related cutscenes and stuff like that. And that's what we were looking forward to. Even on weeks where I wasn't really feeling Raw, I'm like, I just can't wait for the Bloodline segment on Friday. And that one had me so hooked. That it had me so hooked. So you can imagine my frustration when my first show I go to, it ends with Jimmy pulling. In that moment, I was kind of like, that was weird, but like, okay, I'm whatever. You've been fine so far. I'll trust you on this. But it's really funny that you say like it hasn't always been like that, because I have a buddy that I watch pretty much every show with now, and he was the first one to kind of. It's like he wanted to protect me a little bit because he saw how invested I was getting. He's like, listen, like not every show. Like I don't know how else to say this, but like. Not every story is going to be like this Bloodline one. Like I'm just worried. I don't want you to get like super disappointed, when they put out, some garbage or something it's just completely lets you down. And this was really early in what I was watching. And at the time I was like, okay, why are you trying to bring me down, man? I'm enjoying this or whatever. But I have seen more since then. And I'm like, okay, with what pushed him away from watching WWE, and the things that he was going through, I haven't seen a lot of it, but I saw like this like AI GM back in the 20. Okay, so I get it. You guys went through some tough stuff and you're a little bit gun shy now. I get it. I can respect the caution that was being given to me.
It's a weird form of wrestling fan PTSD, man. We spent so long being in the just don't get excited, it's gonna get ruined. So just don't get excited about it. That's the mode we had to be in.
It felt like,
yeah, and this is the first
like the warning I felt like I was getting.
This is the first time really where a lot of us are like, hey, we can get excited again since
you can
like
feel
the
safe
attitude
to care and and be invested
to get invested in things. The bloodline storyline, which I'm still excited for where it's going next, this next chapter of it, but that whole thing was just pure cinema start to finish. Like I never cared about Roman Reigns. I was one of the people that hated Roman Reigns for years.
One of many, from what I understand.
As they were trying to stuff him down our throats as the new John Cena or whatever. And we're just, no, don't like him. Hate him. Soon as he came back and pushed this new heel Roman Reigns thing and started this, it was just so good. And so I completely understand why that would be the thing you'd cling on to, because it's the best thing WWE's put out in decades for sure.
So good.
Have you watched any of the classic WWE stuff from like the Attitude Era, the Ruthless Aggression? You said you watched a couple of documentaries and things.
A little bit. The one that a million people at this point have suggested to me, I'd actually already watched a while ago. I believe I can't remember the name of the channel. I'm sorry to that person, but it's everyone who's seen it will know. It's like the unreality of pro wrestling, something like that. I feel like the thumbnail has Roman Reigns on it. I'm 99% sure. I want to do this person justice because it's
all right. I don't recognize what you're thinking, so
it's a very. It gets suggested to me consistently. Yeah, if you type in, if I type in unreality, it auto finishes of pro wrestling. Okay,
unreality of pro wrestling. Okay.
The Unreality of Pro Wrestling, released 10 months ago, which is aligns. I watched it pretty much when it came out. It fit perfectly with what I was needing to understand at the time, by Super Eye Patch Wolf, a video that has been recommended to me a million times, and I will continue to recommend it to any wrestling fan that just wants to go back and it completely. That's how I understood the Roman story. Essentially, that was my true exposure of the era that you're referring to, of him being shoved down everyone's throats and turning into what we see today. So that was the first exposure to like the history that I had. When it comes to the Attitude Era and Ruthless Aggression Era, if I'm being totally honest, I have no clue which of those are which when I'm looking back at old ones. So when people say Attitude Era, my mind, I just picture like Stone Cold Steve Austin, because it kind of makes sense. Like, that's just me using context clues of the titles of these. And then Ruthless Aggression Era, I assume, is the Cena era, because he's the one who said that, right? That's the clip where he says, So I used context clues to kind of piece together where they fit. But if you just showed me a match, not including either of those names, it's just
you wouldn't know.
Classic. Yeah, it's just the older WWE stuff as far as I'm concerned.
So see, I grew up in the Attitude Era. Ruthless Aggression Era is where I started hit or missing, stuff. I would take a year off, come back, that kind of thing, as a college student and stuff. But yeah, there's you have a Discord, or not a Discord, a Patreon. You do have a Discord, but you have you have a Patreon where that's kind of what you're starting to do, right? You're starting to take suggestions of older matches to watch.
Yeah, the interest in that was way higher than I expected. I kind of just, people were suggesting, hey, you should make a Patreon so you could do this. And I'm like, well, I would, at first I thought I'll do it on YouTube, but YouTube is not interested in playing full matches and anything like that, is what I've learned. So I did that. The interest has been so quick and so strong to, so now it's only been going for a couple weeks at this point, but the cycle has become on my Patreon. I pick a category that I'm interested in watching. So it could be a WWE old match. It could be a TNA, something, NXT, whatever. And all the members will start dropping suggestions of whatever they want. I pick a handful that either stand out to me or the ones that are commonly mentioned. I put it in a poll. They vote on the poll. And then I watch it. I watch it, from start to finish. They've gotten me, the members have gotten me at this point to, they're like, you can't just watch the match. The first one I did, I did it. There's a free version on there where the first match I ever reacted to, I just left up for free members, is me reacting to Undertaker and Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 25, which, holy cow.
One of the best matches ever. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I say in that reaction video is, why am I worried? Like, I keep thinking like, oh my God, Undertaker might lose here. I know the context that I know the streak doesn't end here, but they did such a good job that like in the moment, I'm like, oh God, he could actually lose this here. So that one's pinned to the top because I just wanted everyone. It was the first time I was doing it. It's like, just go check it out, see what you think or whatever.
But people are telling you to watch the whole story, right?
That's what it was. Thank you. Thank you. I was wondering, how did I get there? On that one, I didn't do the entrances or the hype or any of the hype videos because it was just what was on YouTube. So now going forward, all the ones that we've been doing, they make sure to have me watch like the pre-match package that gets put together, the hype video and the entrances. And I'll tell you, the one that I have not posted yet that is going up this week that was suggested is John Cena and CM Punk Money in the Bank 2011. And that one, I fully understand why watching the context beforehand is important. I've watched it and it's going up this week. And I completely agree. If I did not watch the pre-show or the pre-match information, would not have hit even nearly the same.
Right. So you wouldn't have felt it as much.
That's the strategy going forward. It's been fun though.
That's really cool. I'm excited. I might have to join your at least your base tier there so I can keep watching those. Because first of all, you just mentioned, I think it's in my top 3 matches of all time is that WrestleMania 25 match. So good. And both of those are pretty much my favorite wrestlers of all time too. So all right, I got quite a few more questions, but not enough time to dwell on them. So let's do.
I actually wanted to mention that the thing that was constraining my time has been lifted. Don't rush anything. You're good.
Okay. Well, I was just doing a setup for a rapid fire round.
Okay. I just didn't want you to like shave anything off.
I appreciate that.
Whatever. Yeah, I'm good on time today.
So I'm gonna do a rapid fire round here. I got 10 questions here that I'm gonna just shoot you with. Shoot me your answer as fast as you can to each of these.
Okay.
If you don't know the answer, I tried to pick ones that would fit for someone who's only been watching for a year. So
hit me with it. I'll do the best I can. This is supposed to be first reaction. Don't think about it, or
pretty much, yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm ready.
All right. Who is your favorite current wrestler?
Bailey.
Least favorite current wrestler?
Oh, the Creed brothers.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'm going to combine them. Yeah.
NXT or AEW?
I have not watched an AEW match, so it has to be NXT.
You haven't seen any yet? Okay, I saw you post.
No, there's a plan for that for the Patreon at some point, but I have not actually watched a full AEW match. I've only seen clips.
Okay. Who has the best entrance?
I think it's got to be Jay right now. I think right now it has to be Jay. It's just too involved. It's too fun.
Who has the best finisher?
Oh, that's tough to just rapid fire one out. Not Bailey. Which is unfortunate. I love the Riptide from Rhea, but I think the full context and the way he sells a spear, Roman doing the whole corner thing, the whole theatrics of him selling the moment, I think that's too good.
Gotcha. Royal Rumble or WrestleMania?
WrestleMania.
Who's your favorite tag team?
They're not a tag team right now. It would have been the Usos. I really enjoyed
They're really good.
Watching them. They were one of the ones that got me into WrestleMania. Oh, right now, it's not going to be a popular one, but I think they're fun. I think they're fun, and I think they have room to grow. But I see a lot of potential. Is Katana Chance and Caden Carter. I think the way they use their size, I like their finisher, their duo finisher, where she kind of uses some gymnastics and she gets like it's very cool. I see a lot of potential in that, and I'm hoping Jade and Bianca help elevate the women's tag division to let them get another chance to shine.
I like that. Best looking title belt.
Not the new Raw tag titles. Not
You don't
those.
like the pizza belts?
I feel like they'd be fine out of the context of the heavyweight title. It's just that they look so similar.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I think the heavyweight title that Seth and Rhea and them are carrying, I think it just looks so good.
It's nice. It's a combination.
I love the detail.
Of a couple,
That's what the mini title is based on. So I got to look at like a small version of that.
Yeah. Who's your go-to character on WWE 2K24?
A little. I use Roman a lot, and it's mostly because I like to walk out with like the manager, like the Usos and everything behind me. That, or I'll use Ricochet because he has some really fun movesets to use. Just you can jump off of just about anything and pull off a finisher or a signature.
All right, last one. What's the best match you've seen?
It's my sample size is much smaller,
right,
than most. So it's gotta be night 2 at WrestleMania 40. That was
Main event.
That's the one that carried me through the most emotions that I could have asked for. That it took me to places that no other match has yet.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest, and I've said this on the show already when we were reacting to WrestleMania, but night 2 of WrestleMania, the whole night of WrestleMania this year, is the best night of wrestling I've ever seen in my life. And like I said, I've been watching since a teenager. This was the best thing I've ever seen. I was so hyped. I was a child again. It was so good.
That's awesome.
Good answers. So we talked a lot about here just in those questions, a lot of female wrestlers.
Wait, can I ask you, did any of those answers make you go, what? Be honest.
No, honestly, that's most of that. Well, I mean, not having seen any AEW yet, I'm kind of surprised by that. Like,
it's only I've seen clips. Like I've seen like MJF go off on the GM. Is it Tony Khan? That's the one. Yeah, I've seen like little bits and pieces. I have not sat and watched an AEW match start to finish yet.
Wow.
Do plan to though.
Okay. There's quite a lot of good ones in the library, but I don't really know, because you had tweeted that out. You were asking, how do I go watch older matches, and I don't even know what the answer to that would be.
It's really easy with WWE. They post half of them on YouTube.
Yeah. And then, of course, you have Peacock, which even Raw and SmackDown gets posted a few weeks after they're live. Mm-hmm. Well, anyway, I hope you enjoy it. Now's not the best time for AEW.
I have their game.
Yeah, I Fight Forever.
I got it when
it's pretty good. It's all right.
Yeah, it reminded me of a little bit of the WrestleMania 2000, of just a little bit more arcadey.
Same developer, I believe. I think it's THQ.
Oh, really?
That was involved with it. Yeah.
That makes sense that it would. It's a little more brutal. It's a good.
Yeah.
Maybe.
If I'm remembering that correctly. Let's see. Now I need to know. It's
missing a few features that I like with the 2K one, but in terms of just a pick up and play, it's fun.
Yeah, it's THQ. Yeah, that is what I noticed too. Is like this does feel very similar to the games I played when I was younger. I bought I don't have like a real powerful system. I don't have Xbox or PlayStation or anything. I just have the Switch. And the first WWE 2K, which I think was just 2K20. No, it might have been 2K18. Anyway, the first one that came out to the Switch was broken as worse than any game's ever been broken. I remember I was playing as it was my first match attempt on the game. I was playing as Big Cass, I think, which I don't even know if you know Enzo and Big Cass. But they were coming down to the ring, and he couldn't even make it to the ring before the game just glitched out and froze. Like they're in the mid-entrance. And so I never got to play a match. I tried so many times, and they would just never make it past their entrance. And I had downloaded this game, and so I had to like call Nintendo and say, I need a refund for this. And they said, well, we don't really give refunds for downloaded games. I'm like, yeah, but I didn't download a game. I downloaded a mess that was not finished or prepared. And then so many other people started flooding in with that same problem to where they kind of stopped making games, making those wrestling games for the Switch anymore.
Yeah.
I think maybe till this year. And even then, this year's version was like very, it might have been last year's version, but very dumbed down, like very.
It seems like a lot of the ports.
Yeah.
It seems like a lot of the ports to Switch struggle a little bit.
Yeah, that's because
If it's not made for Twitch, it seems like it's struggling.
Nintendo goes over for experience rather than power, and it works some ways, but it doesn't really work very well with cross-platform games most of the time.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, as I was getting into, you talked a lot about women's wrestling just in those 10 questions. You were actually on camera quite a bit on the hard cam at a recent, was that the SmackDown?
That was at the Raw.
That was Raw.
We had the
That's
ringside
Raw. It
ones,
was right because it was when Becky won the title, wasn't it?
Yep.
Holding a sign saying more women's titles, big bold white sign, more women's titles.
My phone blew up within the first 10 minutes of the show. my buddy sent me the text that people were talking about it on Twitter, and I was like, "Oh, good things or bad things?" Because immediately I want to know, like, is this a foolish take, or are people like, "Yeah, more of that"? And I ended up just opening it myself, and I saw some bigger accounts were sharing it, and all throughout the show, I'd look at my phone, and it's just a wall that was going around. It was just me holding a sign that just said more women's titles, which I don't feel like is that crazy of a take when you consider they've only got two. Like, they've only got two that aren't the tag ones.
Yeah. I think if there was ever a time for it, now's the time.
Yeah.
So that's another thing you didn't really get to experience in real time. For all of the Attitude Era, women's wrestling was just about showing off their bodies. It was mud wrestling matches. It was lingerie matches. It was just all objectification. With
there's some leftover of that we experienced at SummerSlam, which was I've heard some. I've seen the criticisms of that SummerSlam since, which is a little bit of a bummer. But at the same time, I didn't realize it in the moment because it was my first show.
Sure.
The crowd wasn't like the toppest of top tier for like a PLE like that. And I can only speak to my section where it was tough to get rowdy because we had a group that really still lived mentally in the era you're referring to. And some stuff I'm not going to say on your show, pretty much any women's match was just being constantly yelled and, demands being made during the show. And it kind of brought things down a little bit, like, because you could tell a lot of the section was awkward. Finally, someone told them to, shut the heck up. And then that got a pop out of our section. So it shows that everybody in the area was really sick of hearing these guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do see the leftover of that a little bit. And I've seen a couple of clips, and I saw a clip where there was literally a bed in the middle of the ring for some segment. And, I'll give you, it was a different time, but that doesn't mean I have to like that time.
Yes,
it was.
That's something that is a bit of a stain on the Attitude Era's fond memories. But there were some standouts. There was Trish Stratus, there was Lita, and even Trish and Lita both were objectified some, but you could tell that they were real athletes and they were really there.
Yeah, they were trying to break through that.
Right. They, I believe, are widely considered to be stalwarts for the evolution that the women's division has seen. But in the last few years, some of the good that's kind of peaked out of the bad has been this growth in women's wrestling. For most of the Ruthless Aggression era, John Cena era, women's wrestling was kind of seen as like it existed and it wasn't as much objectification, but at the same time, it was the bathroom match. When it comes on, okay, I'm going to go get a snack and we'll come back and see. And, I even kind of felt that way. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to be interested in this match because they weren't great. They weren't given time to do anything. Their matches lasted 3 minutes. You know, it wasn't pushed, and their title belt was a toy. I mean, it was a pink butterfly. Like, it wasn't.
That was the Diva one.
Yeah, and they were called divas. They weren't called wrestlers. They weren't called superstars. They were called divas. And anybody who wasn't, you know, a princess in their character is like, okay, well, if I win this title, I have to carry around this princess title for, you know, the next month. And so to see that evolution, which was really bolstered by like Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, Bayley, Sasha Banks, all coming up from NXT.
For the 4 Horsewomen, right?
Mm-hmm. Seeing that launch, like, I've been amazed at just how well the fandom has taken to women's wrestling as it's progressed. And so it kind of does hurt when we see it get put on the back burner a little bit every now and then, because we know how good it can be. Becky Lynch, I think it's Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair, main evented a WrestleMania. Awesome. That was unheard of. Any pay-per-view with a women's match as a main event was unheard of. But to do it at WrestleMania, that's such a major step forward. And so with such a huge roster of women who are not just there for eye candy or to be managers or anything like that, who are actual amazing athletes, mid-card titles would be fantastic.
It feels like it works.
To put a little bit more, I mean, they're already doing it in NXT, right? They just announced the women's North American title for that. I hope that that's a testing ground for if this seems sustainable for the larger roster. But I'm all 100% in with you there. More women's titles would be great.
Yeah, and I can say as a new fan that doesn't have the context of the old stuff, if you buried all of that history and you didn't give me any way of seeing of how it used to be, I can tell you as a new fan, I wouldn't have known. They're doing so well right now that looking back and seeing that is borderline shocking that that's how it used to be treated. Yeah. The way it's treated right now, when you put, there's some that I hear some like, oh, this person botches, she does this, she does that. I don't watch wrestling yet for the super technical, nitpicky. I'm not looking at every little thing. I'm kind of just enjoying the show as a whole and the match as a whole, the story. I'm big on like the story and the promos. So when I see someone like Bianca Belair, who she just has the character, she screams, I'm a champion. She screams, I'm the best. EST, literally, it's literally her thing. And there's so many women that I feel like really do give off, if not champion aura, some sort of deep competitor kind of feel. Where when you only have the 2 titles, I feel like that's where you're going to get this issue of, oh, Becky Lynch won again, Charlotte won again, this person won again. Well, you've only got 2 titles, and I think you've got more than 2 worthy women of carrying these titles. So now instead of having 2 titles where these 4 to 6 women are constantly just cycling between themselves, you have a couple of these middle ones that you could use. That's kind of what it feels like is going on with Bianca and Jade right now with the women's tag title, giving it an opportunity to elevate those a little bit. So I feel like you have enough women that are impressive enough and carry themselves as a champion enough that it would be believable and not forced. Right. So
yeah, no, I think
you could do it.
I think you hit the nail on the head with the whole, Becky's the champ again, Charlotte's the champ again thing, because honestly, I love Becky Lynch. I've loved her character. I loved when she was pulling the whole man gimmick, and it really felt like the female version of Stone Cold was building up for a little while, which was a couple years ago now. But I've probably one of my favorite women's wrestlers. When she won the title at the show that you were at, I was like, oh, okay. Like, there's so many other women right now that could use the push, and she's not one of them at the moment. She's always a champion, She didn't win at WrestleMania, and that was the right call. That, and just to see it get put on her, I was like, well, all right, fine.
The theory that I actually subscribe to is I kind of like her getting it through the Battle Royal, because then it doesn't take away from how somebody else were to win it for the first time. Because Becky doesn't need, like you said, she doesn't need it. So she doesn't need a prestigious way of winning it.
Sure.
She's already believable with the title. And so now if you do give it to someone like Liv or anyone else on the roster who takes it from her, they took it from Becky Lynch, right? They didn't just win it in a quick battle royal. And there's nothing kind of really being, there'll still be that you didn't beat Rhea.
Right.
Hovering.
Which will be great when she comes back.
Yeah, eventually, that's going to be answered anyway, but they will get to hold that up at some point. Assuming Becky loses with it, they'll be able to say that they beat Becky Lynch instead of just winning the group match.
Sure,
so
that is a good perspective, and I guess it's still the cynic in me based on these previous
Totally
years
fair.
of like, I don't think they're thinking that far ahead, but I hope they are, and they very
long-term
probably
storytelling
are.
seems to be Triple H's style.
They probably are. It's. I guess I like being happily surprised as opposed to brutally disappointed. So I'll be hopeful that that's what happens. Beyond that, what are you looking forward to the most in this next year? Anything that you're hoping is going to happen, storyline wise or
story-wise,
business wise?
I've got the fantasy of the Bloodline Civil War Games situation. I'm so subscribed to it. Because I want Roman to come back as a super baby face. I want him to. The way I see it in my head is Roman comes back and is easily able to link up with Jimmy, because Jimmy was kicked out and Jimmy was cool with Roman before he left. And I'm hoping that those two kind of have a feud with the Bloodline before reaching out to Jay. I don't want Jay and Jimmy to get together and then Roman comes back. I want it to be Jimmy Roman. That's not enough. And so they kind of have to, fix this broken relationship with Jay, bring him along to at least maybe not back into We the Ones on the Bloodline again, but it would be cool to like, you know what? I got you, Oos. I'm going to work with you.
Even a situation where
they did.
Yeah, even a situation where they're trying to repair it over the course of weeks, and he's just like not having it, maybe wearing down for half a second and then not. And then he sees them just getting beaten to death in the ring and comes out and like, okay, fine.
Jay's music hits, it would pop.
That would be great.
And the first time, if you were to see Roman walk out with the Usos behind him, whether that's a year from now, 2 years from now, however long it takes to get the story to that point, I feel like that's going to be a moment. Like that's just going to be so cool seeing them back together. Just Roman coming back as a face, a believable face. Yeah,
I think he can do it now. I think he can pull it off. I like that. I also am subscribing to that being the summer or the Survivor Series poll. I want to see Paul Heyman being just held captive by Solo Sikoa, just not wanting to go back to Roman, but not being allowed to.
Yeah. I want to see the rescue mission. I want it.
Yeah, I want it to be a whole kind of spy thing eventually. I think that's beautiful. It's hard when the first chapter of the Bloodline comes to an end here at WrestleMania 40, because it was such a good story. And like, how can they keep it going? Should they have just dissolved it at that point? And so it's hard not to get into that skeptical lens of, all right, can they do anything as good as what they've already done moving forward? But even though I don't really know the Tonga brothers that we now have all that well, seeing them still hypes me up every time.
Yeah.
And I know we got Jacob Fatu coming as well soon.
Is it Tama Tonga was the one who had come a few weeks ago, right?
Tama Tonga was the one that's been there for the last
I like him.
month or so. And
I like him. He's vicious. He gives off that like he's not waiting for an order kind of vibe. Just tell me who to take down, and it's all I'm doing.
He's a bit on the crazy side too. Like if you go look at some of his indie stuff, he's been face paint, crazy character in different eras, and so we'll see a lot from him. I think in the next few years that will be exciting. But anyway, yeah, really cool stuff. Very excited for it. But with that, Josh, thank you so much for joining me on the show today, sharing your unique perspective of a WWE diehard fan who's only been in the fandom for a little over a year. I think it's incredible to see. I think it's exciting for me just as an OG now when it comes to the eras here, I guess, of WWE, to see someone joining in at just the perfect time. Because
that's the sentence I hear the most is I'm sure you could go to that video, load the comments, and search the phrase perfect time. There are so many comments that have said, dude, you came in at the perfect. If you would have joined 5 years ago, you would have been out already. Like if it would have been like it was bad in the 2010s is what I'm hearing a lot of. So if you
joined and then you're like, oh, okay, this is why I don't watch this, and then you wouldn't again.
Why is the laptop booking the match? I don't understand.
Oh, and all the years where like they were making Michael Cole a heel character, it was just, and that was part of it too, because he had to be the guy to read the laptop. Oh, then it was Hornswoggle,
wasn't that
Irish?
Who ended up being?
The Irish little person, and that was just a throwaway. Like, it was Hornswoggle. Like it was so much. Didn't have
there's no way they had that in mind when they did it.
No, they would start storylines and just not have an ending prepared, and just when no one cared about it anymore, throw out, oh yeah, this is how it ended.
Isn't that what happened last year at the Raw after Mania? Wasn't that a show that was still controlled? Wasn't that still a Vince show?
That was when Vince McMahon was supposed to be out of creative. He was just going to be in. At the headquarters, hands off everything. And apparently he got into that show hours before it started, and then even during the show, and just changed everything that Triple H and the creative team had made. And it just became the most convoluted mess. That's supposed to be the best Raw of the year. And everybody was so mad after that Raw.
Well, you know what's so funny about it is I didn't know at the time about the Vince situation, him coming back into it and doing all that. And all I remember walking away from that was like looking back, going all the way into SummerSlam. And I kept thinking, I remember asking my buddies, like, so why did Brock even attack Cody? Like, did we ever get an answer to that? Like, was there something to that? And finally, one of them was like, oh yeah, that was just something Vince, that was something Vince just threw together. And I don't think they ever planned on how that was going to develop. So they just never elaborated on why it happened. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm starting to understand why there was a lot of frustration in the past.
Look, storyline wise, Vince McMahon did a lot of amazing stuff long time ago. Yes, and in the last decade, dude has just been not in touch with fans, thinks he knew better. And every time he took his hands off, things got better. And he couldn't see that, or couldn't take it, or didn't want to believe it, or what.
Didn't want to accept it,
Yeah. I hate the situation that he's gotten himself into currently. Yeah. But when it comes to the WWE product, it was definitely for the best. And I think that's been clear and proven over these last few months. One thing, I was about to like exit the whole interview, but I realized we never touched on this. So I have one more question since you have the time.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts as someone who wasn't around for the first few versions of this on the Uncle Howdy stuff? The QR codes, the weird videos.
Man, I have spent too much time trying to like figure out codes and like I'm pausing shows, pulling up QR codes. I'm calling phone numbers that are in the code.
Yeah.
I'm in. I think it's cool. I think it's really cool. I like when they seem to do it. I've noticed that they put the QR codes at a moment where you're good to open another tab for like a minute or two to watch that. So I like that they're not taking over any matches or anything like that. But man, did I think it was coming at Backlash. I was pretty, it felt like it. It really felt like it was. But, you know, I've gotten already to the point now where I'm like, I'm in no position to say, well, come on, Triple H, hurry up, because every time it feels like he's always got a payoff coming at some point.
Yeah,
you just got to enjoy the show until you get there. But I think that's so cool. It makes me wish I could have watched, the Bray Wyatt's
the White
era
Rabbit one, yeah,
live. Yeah,
So this one has been different in that they've gone really analog horror with the videos. It gives you a lot of cane pixels, a lot of local 58 or 48 or whatever it is, 58, I think. Just kind of creepy VHS tape kind of thing, where the White Rabbit one was a lot more just like puzzle based. Like there's puzzle elements here, but it wasn't super creepy. But the difference with that one was we didn't know for sure it was Bray Wyatt. Like, we know this is Uncle Howdy. It has been since they started the whole thing at the end of that Bray Wyatt documentary.
I mean, one of them literally said "Bo leave" if you in the so I feel like they're not worried about hiding it at this point. They just want you to be excited for it. It seems like.
And so that might be why it feels like it's dragging on a bit, because like we already know what's coming. Just let's do it.
Well, with Bray, maybe that's the thing,
right? Maybe, but with Bray Wyatt, with the Bray Wyatt one, we're just like, yeah, it's probably Bray, but I don't know, something they said here that it could be, that could be Joe Gacy. It could be Finn Balor coming back as the Demon. There was so many little bits, like it could be something else. And so we're all kind of just like, we were really digging into everything. Even us here, we were doing special episodes that we didn't normally plan, just to be like, hey, we had a new thing, we got to talk about it. Have you gone back at all and watched the payoff when he came back at the end of that's something you need to see. It's Extreme Rules 22, I believe. 2022.
I might have seen it in the documentary.
They did a little bit of it there, but like if you want,
I haven't seen the show of it though. Like
if you want to feel how it felt, you don't even need to know much, because my wife has not watched wrestling since we were dating in high school with me, but I made her watch this segment, and even having no idea, very little idea who this character was, and no idea about what the QR code and all this was doing, she was floored at how just over the top this return was. I think the whole thing is on WWE's YouTube, but it is a beautiful, beautiful story. And so I know they don't want to just duplicate that, which again is why I think they're going analog horror. Also, all of their stuff seems to be like, every QR code seems to be a glitch on the screen, when that wasn't the case. Cool. That wasn't the case before. Before, you would be finding them in random places. One of them was like on the mic that Triple H was holding. Like he came out holding it and had the WWE logo, and he eventually turns the mic around a bit and it's got the QR code right there as he's talking. And it's never mentioned on TV at all. No one ever says a thing about it.
It's gotta be so fun. It's gotta be so fun on their end. Like, I would love to be in control of like a product like that, where you set up the QR code, and the second it flashes, even for a second, as the creator of it, I'm already refreshing Twitter. I'm like waiting for people. Like, let's see who figured it out. Let's see. That seems so much. That's such a cool thing that they do.
Yeah, that is another channel I want to shout out. Wrestling Daze, DAZE. This guy has been doing very in-depth deep dives, and he's got a bunch of people on Twitter that send him all the stuff that they find, and he goes through all of it on every bit
on
of
the QR stuff.
On the Nightbird thing. He does more, but like that's what he's really into at the moment, and they're really good videos. They're long though. His last one was an hour long, going into everything from just this last show. All right. Well, once again, I encourage our listeners to check out the Dporticus video detailing his first year as a fan. It is linked in the show notes. He's also been since then doing some more regular WWE related content on his YouTube channel, on your Twitch channel. All of these are at Dporticus. Yep. At your Twitch channel, you do mainly WWE 2KE, or I'm sorry, 2K24.
Yep. We have like
just tournaments. You have like, are you putting on shows?
Well, I haven't gotten to watch it. I believe you guys, like the WWE community refers to it as eFeds.
Oh, okay.
But all
Yeah,
I know,
yeah.
it's like a community universe mode, which I've been doing since before I was a wrestling fan, by the way, which is a weird
Really?
lapse. Yeah, because we were doing it with UFC for like 2 seconds just because it was free on like Game Pass or something.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, let's try it with wrestling. And we did it for a while. And I didn't know what I was seeing. We were just kind of messing around with it. And now that I've started watching it, now we have full blown, like we have weekly shows, PLEs, we have promos, we have like a full kayfabe section in the Discord that people use. So
That's
people
fantastic.
are cutting promos for it. So it's a whole thing on Twitch. It's not the same as on the YouTube, but yeah, there's a little bit of different wrestling on like all the platforms. It's not the same thing on Patreon versus YouTube versus Twitch or whatever. So
Yeah, that's the other one. The Patreon also, Dporticus there for the watch-alongs. I believe your base here is $3 a month. Is that correct?
Yep.
Does that sound right?
Yep.
Not a bad deal, especially if you're into these watch-along reaction videos. You mentioned, the E-Federation thing, and you're reminding me of something that I haven't thought of in years. And that was in 8th and 9th grade. I was a part of one where we just we wrote, it was almost fan fiction. We were writing scripts, full on scripts every week. We would basically flip coins or roll dice to see who was going to win each match. And then we would write the story, and then we would go and just read them and act them out like it's a table read. Yeah, that was weird.
I can tell you right now, if I had gotten into this earlier, I would have been at that table with you. Like, there's so many things I wish I could go back and do different, and play certain things, or I would definitely have gotten into just wrestling. I've seen my neighbors would do wrestling in the backyard.
Oh, back
stuff
yeah.
And I just didn't get it. I was like, I didn't dislike it, but none of it was registering because I didn't watch any of the stuff they were imitating.
Right.
But now looking back, I'm like, oh, that would have been so cool to be into it with them.
Yeah, the guy who runs Love Thy Nerd, his name's Bubba. Him and I grew up together actually, and then reconnected years later. But we would we'd get together at church youth group or whatever, and we'd be there hours beforehand because our not parents but friends of ours parents worked at the church, and so we were there early with them. And we'd go up to the youth room, and there would be steel chairs, and these are the real ones, not the kind of thin ones that they use on shows. And we'd have bean bags, and we'd have 2x4s, and we just set them all up and then throw each other off the couch onto these things. We injured ourselves badly many times, but we were recording it, on a camera and everything. We were full on marks back then, to the point where we put our bodies on the line. Cool. So I'm sad that you missed out on that. I'm sad that you missed out being a teenager wrestling fan. But hey, the second best time to become a wrestling fan is immediately. So good job. Josh, thank you again, brother. This was really fun talking to you. And I'll be following along all your stuff, and hopefully we can connect again soon.
Hey, absolutely. It was fun. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, brother. And with that brings today's episode of Two Words to a close. Remember to catch us on all the socials at 2WordsLTN, and we are launching our own individual YouTube channel. We are kind of cross-posting right now with the Love Thy Nerd YouTube channel, but beginning next season, in August, we will be exclusively posting our videos to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@2WordsLTN, just like all our socials at 2WordsLTN. Follow us there for more wrestling fun in the future as all of LTN's podcasts break off into their own channel here in the next few months. We're excited. We're excited to have our own standalone spot. So our content, if you're here at Love Thy Nerd for wrestling content, it won't be buried, with 95 other videos throughout the month. If wrestling's all you want to talk about. So it'll be a lot easier for you to curate your own podcast list from the massive Love Thy Nerd podcast network. We're excited about that. John will be back 2 weeks from now. Next episode, it'll be our finale for this season. We're going to most likely be doing another career retrospective, which is what we typically tend to do with our last episode of the season. But I have no idea who it's going to be on. John's keeping that pretty close to his chest. So you'll likely find out just a few days after I find out when this show goes live. Thank you again to Dporticus. All of his links are in our description. And if you're not down with that, we got 2 words for you.
Goodbye.